Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. For those who are new to the show, I hope you become a subscriber by the end of this movie. For the past 4 years or so, the SEC has been a major issue that has made it difficult for this space to grow, not just 5 times bigger, but 10 to 100 times bigger than it is now. Let's get started and talk a lot about what's been going on in the last couple of weeks, specifically with the SEC. When we think about how big crypto could be, it could be absolutely huge and in the hands of hundreds of millions of people overnight if there were proper regulations and those regulations led to adoption. If you think that number is crazy or ridiculous, I want you to understand this. Right now, some of the most important steps are being taken by the SEC to make that a reality, both in the US and around the world. First, let's look at this post by Cynthia Loomis, which did say that the goal was to make US asset managers competitive on the world market. And now we have a bit more information about the thinking behind and goals behind this order. We like answers to the following questions, which they do explain in this. They have until April 1st to reply. As I said before, it seems like the SEC is starting to feel a bit of pressure from not only senators, but also if we look at what's been going on over the last few weeks, we can go all the way back to Davos, right? They both asked the SEC to allow tokenization efforts in the US for stocks and equities, and I think it was Morgan Stanley that said this. It seems like the SEC is under a lot of pressure and needs to act quickly, now that we think about it. From well-known people, also guess what? It does work. We go over here. Do you remember that I told you that the SEC was putting on hold a number of lawsuits, including the ones against Binance and Coinbase? Yes, there are a few more that could be put on hold. Again, this was a big change on the SEC's part because it showed us that they mean business by going from being against crypto to now saying, okay, let's support innovation. Let's also help science move forward in the US, and they did start by putting a lot of cases on hold. Now, we do look at the one big case on this list, which is the Ripple case. This is because it is still one of the biggest cases in crypto history, and it's still going on. That's what we need to pay attention to. The due date for that is April 16th. It's been thought by many that there will likely be a settlement first, which is what we'll talk about in this movie. Now, the big news came on the 20th. The SEC dropped its appeal in the case of crypto broker-dealer rules that would have given the agency control over independent crypto protocols. It was a big one. Again, when you add this to the fact that the cases have stopped, it kind of gave the impression that things are changing, like it's actually happening now. We don't have to speculate on if this SEC is going to be pro-crypto or not. They are showing us and proving to us that they are. But then it quickly followed up with this, which just happened. This happened yesterday. OpenSea, the SEC Gov's enforcement division, is ending its investigation into the NFT platform OpenSea, which is another step backwards for the agency. The CEO of OpenSea has given us an update here, though. The SEC's probe into OpenSea is now over. This is good for everyone who works in our room and makes things. It would have been a step backward to try to classify NFTs as securities because it would have been wrong to do so and would have slowed down or stopped progress. There shouldn't be any hurdles in the way of any creator, no matter how big or small. Now, listen up. I agree with you 100%. I also believe this is a huge win for the business world. This was just one of many, so you should think about what went on, right? First, there is a break in the cases. It looks like the SEC is giving up on its appeal in the case about crypto broker-dealer rules. Then the probe with OpenSea is now over. The case was then thrown out, 2 words that every suspect in every case yearns to hear. Today, we can say that the SEC Gov is dropping our case. As long as the full commission agrees, there won't be a deal or a settlement. Something wrong will be fixed from the SEC. We don't usually hear things like that. We can look away from the task at hand because we still have work to do. Laws are very important for making sure that this kind of illegal behavior doesn't happen again. We're not going to give up until we have the clear rules that will let the business really grow in the US. It's important to work together. We're excited to work on this next step of progress with Congress and the SEC team. I want to thank the great lawyers at Coinbase and Watchale, Sullivan, and Cromwell for all the hard work they put into this pointless witch hunt. Also, thanks to Brian Armstrong and a few of their board members and other people like that. We had to change the rules for how a public company should handle a case from a big government agency. The US can now finally get back to what it does best, making new technologies that make the world a better place. Also, listen, this is huge, and we even heard from a lawyer in the field who quoted this and said that everyone had hoped that the new SEC would stop its effort to regulate and attack crypto, but it's still crazy to see it happen this way. The agencies almost never give up in court without at least getting a deal that saves their face. There is no more defeat Also, this is why I keep telling everyone, especially people who own XRP, the SEC will no longer be a part of our lives. We are now seeing the change. They have changed everything. It's no longer a joke. It's happening, or I should say it does happen, right? This is going to see a huge amount of growth in the years to come because it is so important to the whole business. This makes me very happy. On top of that, we did get some news from Jeremy Hogan. He said that the Coinbase case was dismissed with prejudice, which means that it cannot be brought up again, not even for a settlement deal with some small changes. If Atkins is confirmed, I guess the SEC won't wait to make big moves in crypto. Then there's Ripple. Let's wait for it now, right? The time is running out. This was used by Brad Garlinghouse. That was all he said. I know a lot of people who are anxious, including myself. This SEC has made it clear that it wants to move on quickly from the failed policies of the last government that tried to regulate by enforcement. Okay, listen up. Things are about to get crazy around here now. What's going to happen next makes me very excited. Even Coinbase wrote a post about this, which was a big mistake. Now, in this, they broke down how the SEC has totally changed this space and how things will look from now on. Okay, like when we really think about what's going on, so far, this is just the start of the process that will lead to laws in the US that encourage innovation and clear out this whole area. Then we get to this point. We think that someday most of the world's GDP will be based on crypto. That is the main question. Will the United States take the chance to build this infrastructure, or will it fall behind? There is a big step forward in building this business in the US today thanks to our help. Entrepreneurs, makers, and new thinkers need to be able to update our financial system and connect the whole world to the blockchain. What I think. With Ripple's case being thrown out totally, it's bound to happen because we know there is no case here. We know what will happen. The argument doesn't make sense. Also, Meta Lawman is a lawyer who works in this field. Gary Gensler turned the SEC into a political tool. The SEC needs to do a lot of work to get its reputation back. I think it is now led by the right people to do that. Throwing out the Ripple case and making the IG report on Bill Hinman public are important steps toward that recovery. But I keep getting this question, when will the Ripple case be over? If you ask me, I think the case will be over before April 16, when Ripple has to turn in its appealing brief. There are more moving parts in the Ripple case than in the crypto exchange case because the parties have to deal with the Taurus ruling and the escrow's disposition. The word escrow refers to the more than $125 million that Ripple has set aside for the court case's ruling, not the XRP escrow. Yes, it is a bit more complicated. That's why it took a little while. This is Eleanor Tourette, and she's actually quoting Cherry Empress 21 because she wrote a post about how this case is a little different. As Cherry Empress 21 points out, the process for Ripple is more complicated than for Coinbase because they already have an order from Judge Torres, the judge at the district level, to pay the $125 million. In the end, Torres was given the power to keep watching over the case for one more year until August 7th, 2025, to make sure the rules of the order are followed. The SEC could decide to drop the appeal in the Second Circuit, but they would also have to figure out how to talk to the district court and possibly reach a deal on the penalty decision to lower it or ask for it to be dropped. They would also need to get Torres' approval as the chief judge. One legal source told me we are in uncharted territory right now, so there is some doubt in all of this. In other words, as we really think about what's going on with the Ripple case, we don't want to hear it, right?